this time. All right, and we are live. Perfect. So let me just go ahead and get her going, ladies and gentlemen. Five, four, three, two. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into our round 6 breakdown. You know what? Honestly, I thought it was weird. This was a really weird round, not for any of the reasons you might think, but for the one reason that I think for the first time this year, we've come out of a complete round of footy without a giant controversy that is destroying Twitter, that is destroying, I guess, Facebook, maybe Instagram, the YouTube, the comment sections. That's just running rampant through the AFL community. And I, for one, am shocked, and I don't really know how to react to that. If anything, I think I am pretty confused. Are you in the same boat with me right now? Like, is it really around the footy without extreme controversy?
Well, here's the thing that I'm going to say is that the first probably half a day after the first game, the whole raising the arms drama was still. I mean, people were
I'm gonna
losing
count
their
that as round
friggin'
fiver.
minds. Well, because one call, and again, and I kind of stated it. I kind of stated it to to a few friends of mine. I said, with what he did, the way the letter of the law was written, it's a 50. Do I agree? Was it demonstrative and probably should have been? No. And I said that. I said, do I like the way the law is written? No. But the funny part about it is didn't I call it? How many other demonstrative penalties did we see the rest of the round?
I
None.
don't know.
It's like the players knew what.
Oh, it's like
So,
people, coaches, and players adjusted to the rule set. Where have we seen this one before?
oh boy, it's just kind of. It's just. I thought it was funny. So it's like, I mean, when I'm seeing 2 or 3 hours after the game, going, the game is in horrible shape. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, you are again making a big deal out of something that is gonna be completely fine in a few days, and we were. I was. I'm not trying to Nostradamus, not trying to get a big head or pat myself on the back, but I called it. They figured it
No,
out.
no,
So
no.
let's just
You kind of
dial
saw
it
the
down
whole
a
thing
bit.
coming there, and I really, if you're surprised by it, that and didn't take Coach Johnny seriously here, I think you have your own issues to go off of. But even though we don't have a giant controversy to go over, we can just very well go ahead and make up our own. It's really not that hard. But let's, especially I can think. Let's talk about Honda Odyssey. I mean, Ginavan. I mean minivan. I mean Jack over here. Oh man, that was a good time with the. I really did like him silencing the crowd like that. I think more players should do that when the opportunity arises.
The fascinating part about that whole situation is that not even 3 or 4 weeks earlier, Kane Corns was like, a kid needs to learn some respect. And then in Footy Classified a couple of days ago, he's like, I love having characters like him. And my favorite is the several other panelists go, well, why did you get on him so bad then? Why? And it's like you can kind of see him go, well, I want. I'm like, dude, this is why you got to choose how you're going to approach people carefully. It's
Mhm.
like you should have gotten angry with the club, not the player in the first place. So you're going to eat crow a little bit, dude. I mean, plain and simply, is Kane Corn one of those that occasionally loves to throw out the controversial opinion, and most of the time be wrong? Yeah, he's pretty good at that. So
Yo,
we'll
hey,
state it
some
like
people
that.
need to have
Is
their talent. Obviously, he's talented in that. Also, before we get cranking, just want to put it out there, if you guys are listening to this after we are live, then you know we're doing this stuff live now for not only for our AFL but also for our upcoming UFC and NFL shows as well over on our YouTube and Twitch. So go check those ones out. AFL stuff will be 6 o'clock Mountain Time every Wednesday. You know, Australian time it's like around 10 a.m. So you get a cup of coffee and come join us. And so if we're going to be changing a little bit of things here when it comes to replying to fans, such as "What's up, Austin? It's a pleasure to have you in." I know you're going to hate me for this pun, but it's been far too long. Oh man, I hate myself for that. His last name is Long, everyone. For those that don't know, so it's really
no,
low
so
hanging fruit, but I kind of had to pick it. But we're live, so please check us out because you could drop your angry and now I'm not going to call it angry. You're passionate YouTube comments while we are live, so we can respond to you in real time. So it just adds into the fun here. But what we got for you guys today is some controversy coming out of the West Coast and the East Coast. Apparently, we're going coast to coast. We got a new TV deal possibly coming to the States. We're going to talk biggest surprises through the first 6 rounds of footy, and there is definitely someone that might be on the verge of signing a lifetime contract, and we're going to get Donnie's thoughts on who that might be. Then we're going to hop into Team of the Round, our tips, and then we're going to wrap things up for you guys. But for those that are live, you don't get to listen to it, so here's another perk. But for those that are listening to this after the podcast form drops, here's an ad. All right, and then thank you guys for, if you're on the podcast, like I said, listening to the ad, it does help with the revenue, which I desperately need. I am poor, at least for the longest poor. Let's get some money going. This thing, you guys are great. But we're going to start things off because what better way to start it off than what we do each and every round, because this is the best way to really get, I guess one say the blood flowing, but the creative and angry fan mind going, if you want to call it that one as well, because of course that's how AFL pundits work. I'm just trying to fill into their shoes. I don't know if we really need any more of them though, but it's time to overreact to round 6 of the AFL season. For those that don't know how the segment works, I got 3 statements for Coach Donnie here, and it's up to him to determine if it's an overreaction or if there's actually some truth to it. And statement number 1. Oh, this is going to piss some people off, I'm sure. West Coast is the worst team in the competition.
Oh, after this, I really love this jump to conclusion, especially those that are Port Adelaide fans, because they're not the ones being talked about being the horrible team anymore. So we look at it again. This is one of those where if you look at the lists, and I say that again, what's on paper again is a discussion for people, especially the pundits. If you look at the pure list, this is not the worst team in the competition. It is not by any source of the imagination. There are tons of talent on
I guess the list, including the COVID list as well.
And that's kind of the thing that I find kind of very interesting, that there's a lot of different, shall we say, agendas, or shall we say discussion points for. I mean, let's look at the 3 teams that a lot of people have been discussing over the last couple of rounds about being atrocious at footy. Adelaide, West Coast. If you really look at it, West Coast and Port Adelaide have genuine arguments that they may actually be a better team than their record shows, because you look at Port.
No, what did we talk? They have legitimate qualms when they blame injuries.
Absolutely. I hate going to blaming injuries, because I don't think it's blaming. I mean, and many people would say it's an excuse. It's an excuse if some of your best players are out with injury, because most people would say on your list, your backup is not as good as your starter, plain and simply.
Really? Are you saying that they have a backup that's as good, is one of the best intercept markers, if not the best intercept marker in the league in Illyria? Are you saying that their backup is not as good as Illyria?
No, not normally. And then you also
wow.
Do they have your great full forward and small forward, and with Robbie Gray and Ben and Dixon being out too? So it's really, when it comes to Port Adelaide, has, like I said, they have that kind of parachute, shall we say, of that, and then West Coast can say the same. I mean, all those COVID outages, you have an injury list that is growing almost daily, which is insane. What they've had to go through. I mean, having to have to put in a waffle side against North Melbourne earlier in the year. So I'm gonna say this is an overreaction, because I think once West Coast is healthy, I think they're going to be a dangerous team, because by the time they're going to be out of it, I mean, most people have already kind of drawn a line through West Coast's finals appearances, but they're going to be experienced, they're going to be talented, and they're going to be dangerous, because they don't have to worry about the finals pressure. They could just go play footy, which many times, especially from round 17 to 22, is one of the most dangerous things to have, is to play a team
Hmm.
that can just play footy. There's no pressure on them. They're not going to make the finals. They play. So honestly, it's an overreaction because I hate saying it. I think North Melbourne is actually the worst team in the league this year. I have a hard time seeing them not win the spoon unless West Coast continue.
And I feel bad because like North is out here trying to prove it wrong. I was trying to give them credit, even though they're bad. I was trying to say, hey, this is a fighting team. They're not just going to roll over. But if you take a look at some of the performances this season, you could make the argument that it at least appears to be the case. I wish I was wrong because they're a team I want to root for because love a good underdog. It's just not in the books for them this year. Maybe next year, maybe the next 5 years, who knows? But then again, I can't talk too much trash because I am a Giants fan, and that is a giant pain in the ass. But talk about pain in the ass. Let's bring up the D's, who also whooped the Giants a couple of rounds ago at this point. But that brings us into statement number 2, and that is that the Melbourne Demons should be worried about their offensive production. This is on the back of kicking just 9 and 22 against the Richmond Tigers. I'm sure, Don, you're going to bring up a hell of a stat that was just recently pointed out to us as well. But is this an overreaction or not?
Now, for most people, you would go, this is an overreaction. It's a team that's undefeated. It's a team that's playing good footy. And it's hard to argue that. But it was brought up on a podcast, and I could not believe it when I heard it. And I told Ross this before we hopped on mic, before we hopped on live, is that if you look at, have not played a top 10 side this entire season. They played the Western Bulldogs, who currently sit 11th. They played Gold, sitting 13th. They played Essendon, who's currently sitting 16th. Port Adelaide, who's currently sitting 14th. GWS, who's currently sitting 15th. And the Richmond Tigers, who currently sit 12th. Their 6 wins, not a single team is in the top 10. And even this round, they're still not even in the top 8, with Hawthorn being 9th on the ladder. They won't even, as of at least this recording, they won't play their first until the first round of May, next round against St. Kilda. So it's kind of one of those, if you look at that stat or any other team, you'd be a little concerned because you won some games tight that you probably shouldn't have. You're playing a bottom tier. You're playing a bottom half of the ladder team. But you look at it, I think the Western Bulldogs have underperformed again. Injuries have really gotten them over the last few rounds, but they played the Melbourne Demons at the start of the year when they were mostly and completely healthy and still got beat. So I think this is an overreaction, but I'm interested to see how the D's respond because, as we kind of discussed off mic, the bulk of their really good teams are going to come after round 10. I mean, they're getting several rounds in a row. I mean, we looked at it. We looked at it together. We saw a run of the Freo Dockers, who are second, Sydney Swans, who are fourth or fifth, Collingwood, who's eighth, Brisbane, who is third, Adelaide, who's ninth, who's ninth or 10th, and the Cat
10th.
And all in the span of 5 to 6 weeks. That is a murderer's row from round 11 through 17.
And they get like a break for maybe a couple rounds in there with Port Adelaide and the Doggies, but then their last 4 is Freo, Collingwood, Carlton, and Brisbane. This, I'm not saying it will happen, but Melbourne definitely has the potential to not be anywhere near that top 4 if woes continue. I'm not saying that they're bad right now. I'm saying the potential is there. But also, if you take a look at that 6 games, if you kick 9-22 against Freo, against Sydney, against Brisbane, against Geelong, there's chances you lose by like 5-6 goals, at least.
Oh, but it also, though, as you got to look at it too, is that Melbourne's defense has been playing really, really well. I mean, considering
their defense is lights out. Oh yeah, no, let's not argue against that. Their defense is lights out.
Well, they have the best overall percentage defense in the league. They've given up the least amount of points this season here. I'll pull it up really. Their percentage is 153.5 altogether, and if I remember correctly, they've given up the least amount of points, only like just under 400. They've given up in the first 5 rounds, so they've played super super well. Again, are they playing the creme de la creme? No, but
No.
again, this is a really good team that has had a lot of line. So for them to still play as well as they have, it's kind of scary because think about when they have all of their guys healthy. And then I don't, Ross, but COVID has now gone through the Melbourne camp. Simon Goodwin, their coach,
Yeah,
will
it
not
started to hit
coach
them.
this round. Keziah Pickett and at least two other players are both out game this round against the Hawthorn Hawks. So if I'm the Hawks, you may be catching Melbourne at the right time. You've got a little bit of a team that's got a few injuries.
I think
You're going to get some backups in. This is one of those. I think this is a much more competitive game because of some of the breaking news over these last 24 hours. This is this game than I think a lot of people are expecting going into the round. I mean, Luke Jackson was one of the others. It's a big loss because that's Max Gawn's kind of right hand man, and that secondary to run. A lot of teams in a lot of trouble. So not having Jackson, not having Keziah Pickett, those are a couple of big losses for those Melbourne Demons going into trickier Hawthorn side than some people are giving credit for.
Man, you might be shining some light on what we're going to go over later when we get to our tips, because I have to give at least one a week, at least one bold prediction a week. Luckily, last round, hey, hats off to you two. We both went 8-1 on our tips. Mine specifically, it was Carlton that screwed me against Frio. But shout out. I just want to point out there that my tip of Adelaide and the doggies went exactly as I thought it would. So maybe I'm not as stupid as I might think I am, or as probably you guys think I am sometimes too. So can we ride the momentum into round 7? Will you have to stay tuned until our tipping later in the show? Absolutely you will. Please do. It'll be great. I promise. But last statement, and this one is one that hits near and dear to my heart because, man, I really don't think they got a whole lot to lose. But statement number 3, Leon Cameron won't be coaching GWS next season. Overreaction or not?
I'm normally you're very good at picking stuff that it can be easily considered overreaction, but it's hard. It's hard. I mean, they're 1-5. And I think a lot of people saw Toby Green's back. It'll be the renaissance of the GWS Giants. It'll be a lot like last year, a horrible start to the season. Cameron waves his magic wand. The team starts playing well, and they get into the finals. Unfortunately, again, they ran into a very good St. Kilda team. Toby, I think he did make an impact, but there are just enough issues on this GWS roster right now that, as I said in the preview show, I am worried Toby's only going to be able to cover a few cracks. Cracks are still showing at this present point. It is hard to see this as an overreaction unless GWS goes on one heck of a run over and gets themselves at least within shouting distance of the finals. I mean, and just looking at their roster, it doesn't get much easier. A tough game at the Adelaide Oval this week.
We got Adelaide, we got Geelong, we got Carlton. We might be able to beat West Coast. You got Brisbane, might be able to beat North Melbourne. We got the doggies, where honestly I'm actually looking forward to that game because at least the way they've been looking this year, they're actually pretty even when it comes to competition wise, in just ability. And like you said, I think it might have been 3 rounds ago at this point, but that rivalry between GWS and the doggies those are always some great games. So this might make it even that much better. So fingers crossed they can pull that one up. But back to Collingwood, back to Hawthorn. I'm even worried with Port Adelaide. It's hard. There's just a general sense of I just don't have hope when it comes to watching them play footy, which is horrible. But like if you just look at their list on paper, that's a talented roster right there. If you take they are underperforming, and it's not. There are some of their talents that aren't playing as well as they should be, but also there's just a general feeling that I, d- you know what? Let me put it in my super dumbed down and simplified logic here. What's the point of playing the season? It's to make the finals. What's the point of playing the finals? It's to win a flag. Can the GWS Giants right now, with Leon Cameron as a head coach, make the finals, let alone be legitimate premiership contenders? I do not think so. And especially in the case where there are other head coaches out there that could fill Leon Cameron's role in a better way, I think you gotta send it. I got nothing against it on camera. Like I mistakenly hopped on the bandwagon too quick last round. But this one, it's like something's got to change, and it just feels like there's just a general feeling of discomfort. Some of the reports coming out of the Giants camp is that there it's almost a lack of confidence in Leon Cameron's coaching ability, and if you lose your team, you lose everything. I
Hmm.
think it's time to make a move. I'm not sure if it's going to happen during the season. It just kind of depends if someone's out there. But I think by the time we kick off next year, Donnie, Nathan Buckley, head coach of the GWS Giants, please,
It'd be a
please,
very interesting hire. Like I said, they're in such a tough situation right now because again, I mean, you were 1-5, you were 20 percentage points behind Port Adelaide at 15th, and again, we had already kind of said their run is not easy. I mean, and even I'll say this, and I don't mean to. It's even more. By the time you get to
good
West
luck.
Coast may be back up to at least more full strength than they expected. They may not have McNatt Nui, but Shuey should be back from his concussion issues. Kennedy will have had 3 or 4 games running through. You might get Jeremy McGovern back. It will
Hmm.
be a much more experienced West Coast. That's what I said. West Coast is one of those teams. If I'm a finals team in the last 8 rounds of the season, I don't want West Coast on my roster because by then they may be more of the West Coast that everybody expected. That's the finals team stepping onto your field more than the waffle team of the first 5 rounds that put them in the hole that they are in, being 1-5 with a 61.2% rating. The only one that's worse
Hmm.
is North at 60.6. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, again, I think Cameron will see through the season because I just don't see GWS firing him in midseason unless they can
No,
get the guy like a Buckley
exactly.
or like a Clarko.
Yeah,
And I
I'm
don't
not. But
see that.
see, I
I
don't
don't
think
see that
Clarko or
happening during the
Buckley.
season.
Exactly. I don't see them joining the Giants mid-season. And honestly, at this point, are the Giants finals contenders? No. Can they be? Yes. There's still plenty of time in the season. But realistically, are the Giants going to make the finals this year? They are not. So there's no need to rush into a new head coach. Take your time. It's not going to really change much of anything. In fact, it might just give Leon maybe one more chance, but I don't want to run to, hey, let's give him one more chance. They get on a run, and then they don't fire him, and then they keep him next year, and then they suck again next year. This is horrible. But also, if this is last season, Leon Cameron in Greater Western Sydney, he's been a good head coach. It's not like he's just stunk up the place. He's been consistent as well. And so I definitely don't hate the guy. I just think it's run its course. And if I definitely don't want them to, be on bad terms. I have enjoyed Leon Cameron as a person and as a head coach. I just think the time is right to move after the season.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. Like I said, I don't see Bucky or Karko taking this team halfway through the season just because
No.
there's just not enough time to get everything that they're probably going to want to have. They're probably going to want an off season. They're kind of want to. You'll see some player movement that I think will be more focused there. So unfortunately, I
I
think you
think Buckley's
probably see
enjoying his new
Cameron.
job too much right now.
I think the only way you see Cameron fired is if they bring in a caretaker K, because some teams get a boost from it and they'll win 2 or 3 games. But I mean, if you want to get a better draft pick to potentially give your new coach that kind of springboard,
Hmm.
not want to win a lot of games. So it just kind of
I'm not
depends. So I'm
going to say, hey, you guys should tank. I'm just saying maybe you shouldn't try to improve.
Well, I don't think tanking's going to work right
Uh,
now because right now, North Melbourne, Essendon, and West Coast are I've got you beat and they're
it's
worse
hard to
footing
out
than you
tank
are.
them. Ugh. Yeah. I just think it's time, and like I said, not necessarily a bad thing. It just happens over time. This happens in every sport where a head coach just runs their tenure, and Leon Cameron is not going to get to the Giants to the ultimate goal. I'm not calling him a bad head coach. He's just not good enough, at least not at this point. Even if it's like but even like bring a new head coach is almost like some of the situations when you throw an emergence or when you pull the goaltender in hockey. Done. You'll love this analogy. My hockey guy right here. Sometimes when the goalie gets pulled, it's not necessarily their fault that they're getting, that their team is down by so much and getting scored on so quick. It's because that defense is giving them horrible, horrible shots and leaving the goalie out to dry. This is not necessarily and so they pull the goalie, not because it's goalie's fault, because sometimes they're just trying to create a spark, change something up, get a little bit more momentum going the other way.
Hmm.
Leon Cameron is not just crapping the bed as a goalie right now, but we got to change something up at the organizational level.
Yeah, and I've seen that before, and it's a perfect analogy. Not the person in the job; it's the entire team needs to wake up, and sometimes it has to be a sacrificial lamb, and unfortunately, sometimes it is the coach that is the sacrificial lamb. So,
It's easy scapegoat, that's for sure.
uh huh.
Oh, I don't need to tell the head coach that, do I?
Not really.
Oh man, I love it. At least luckily, like people like me, assistant coaches, we get overlooked in terms of accountability and blame. So sometimes it works out for us. But those are overreactions. And look at this, we actually had one of the statements. They've been close, but finally got one where Donnie did not think it was an overreaction. So I think that is a milestone so far this season. But let's know your thoughts. Is West Coast the worst team in the comp? Should the D's be worried? And is Leon Cameron going to be coaching the GWS Giants at the start of next season? But before we get into what the blank, we got a couple things to talk about here because one of the things, like I said, not a whole lot of controversy. So I have a question that I want to bring to Donnie in this week's kind of general discussion when it comes to some of the storylines going around. So through the first 6 rounds, there's been a lot that's gone on. There's been a lot, whether it be injuries, whether it be surprise players, surprise performances, um, surprise controversies, in fact, even as well. So, at this point, what has surprised you the most about the season? If
Oh,
you
there's
can name one.
so there's so many. But honestly, I'll kind of retort it, and I'm not usually one to ask a question. But do you want my positive side of this one or the negative side of this one?
Let's start with positive. The power of
We'll
positivity
start with the
lays in
we'll
that
start
one.
with the positive. Okay, and that is the four teams that are currently in the finals that were not. So these were
Yes.
and if I look at it, there's only one team of the four new teams in the finals that
Hmm.
I had close, and that was Fremantle, and they're sitting second. And that honestly, in my personal, one of the biggest surprises, the
Freos
Fremantle
blow me away
Dockers,
this year.
as of round six, are second on the ladder with a 4.2 percentage, and their only loss
Sounds like they're
is to
playing really good
fifth
footy.
is to fifth ranked as we speak, St. Kilda. So that is
Man.
probably it's hard to argue that is not the surprise of the century, the surprise of the year, just because I think a lot of people saw Frio as being right there on the cusp. They were going to be close,
Hmm.
that they may get in, but I think a lot of people puffed up the Richmond Tigers because Dusty's back, and the Richmond Tigers, there's no way they're going to have another season where they don't make the finals. And
Definitely
a
was for
lot of
me.
people a lot of people, I'm going to say this and I mean this, a lot of people got seduced into that. And saying almost a little bit with Essendon too is you kind of there was so much history that they were looking
Essendon
at.
is
They
just more
forgot to kind
hopeful.
of, yeah, exactly. But I got to give Justin Longmuir a huge, huge pat on the back, sir. You have done a lot with a
Hmm.
roster that I think when everybody said, well, Adam Chera is gone, I'm seriously going to say is Andrew Brayshaw is making a lot of Frio fans not have to remember Adam Chera because he is having an all Australian type of season. You don't have Nat Fife right now. He's still having his back issues.
Mhm.
David Mundy has missed a few games, but he's come in his usual brilliance. Caleb Sarong is playing well. Darcy is playing well. Taberner has a great round last round with 7. So it is hard to argue that Fremantle is just they're playing a great team style of footy. Like if I look at you, Ross, and I ask you, can you name me besides the guys that I just named? Can you name me 5 other Fremantle Dockers that you can think off the top of your head? And some people that are not Fremantle Dockers fans are going to have trouble naming 5 other players on this Fremantle Dockers team because
Mm.
there's not a lot of superstars. They have a
Mhm.
lot of guys that play their role and play their role really, really well. And I have enjoyed watching this Fremantle footy team. They're going to be an absolute blast to watch. It's going to make the finals this year. I have a hard time unless injuries ravage this team, which again, being in WA, is also the COVID issue too that you potentially are
Mhm.
running in days, especially. This team can make the finals. I think will make the finals.
Yeah.
We're 6 games in. Coach, what are you doing? We're only a quarter of the way through the season. Yes. But they are sitting second on the ladder with a very healthy percentage, which is almost like a bonus point for a
Mhm.
team. And they're playing really, really well. And they have made Optus Stadium, like West Coast, a fortress. It is very, very difficult. They just beat a Carlton team that a lot of people said, Cripps is back. They're going to go over and win in the West. What happened? Fremantle, Cripps has a great game,
No need for rub it in.
well, but Fremantle gets the chalkies in the long run. So Adam Chera's return to the West comes with a loss. So this Fremantle team, if they, like I said, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be in this chance for the not only the finals, but they could be a top 4 sign if they continue this up because Geelong is still
Yeah.
iffy. Geelong is still iffy. Sydney has shown some vulnerabilities. Brisbane has shown these, and there's your 3 other teams that are going to fight with you for the top 4. So with the Western Bulldogs being down in 11th place and currently a full game out plus percentage, I mean you're talking a mental team that's got a lot of possibility of making the finals, and with their defensive style and the ability to make Optus Stadium a fortress, could be a very interesting threat against the Demons this year. Are the Demons a better team overall? Yes, but Fremantle's keep an eye on the Fremantle Dockers team because, like I said, they've got horses. They're going to be a fun team to watch this season. Cannot wait. And then on the, I'm gonna, I hate going to the negative, but I'm gonna go to the negative.
Mhm.
And my biggest surprise has to be the Essendon Bombers. I mean, the floor has fallen out on this
Biggest
Bombers
disappointment
team.
of the season, easily. Easily.
Well, you could say Port Adelaide, but again, I think a little bit the reason that Essendon is below Port Adelaide is more because Port Adelaide played a West Coast team that did not play really well, and Port kind of put
Mhm.
it on them, boosting up the percentage. But just I honestly don't know what is wrong with this Essendon team. Yes, they've had some injuries. Yes, are they full strength? No, but they played a brand of footy last year that they scored a ton of points. That they played at least good enough defense to keep in games,
Mhm.
and they've got neither really. Like they can't defense, so they're giving up a ton of points, and they're not scoring the way they did last year, and that's really hurting them. So
At least last year,
I'm
even when they lost in exciting games because they're putting up a crap to the points and they lose close ones in a very high scoring
exactly,
contest. And then to
exactly,
your point about Fremantle, with them being not a superstar heavy team, you know, you have your few guys, but then being pretty well rounded. I'm going to throw it back because it's my bread and butter, it's my wheelhouse. It reminds me of a specific NFL team that was on a hell of a dynasty, and that's the New England Patriots because that Bill Belichick ran team. They had superstars, of course, like every Super Bowl winning team has. You have superstars. They had Tom Brady. They had some good defenders, but I mean, they had some good receivers there. Wes Welker. I mean, Edelman was some of them. It's hard to name all their superstars because it went over like literally like 2 generations of players with how long that lasted, which was horrible. It's stupid Tom Brady, pain in the ass. But really, what they did, they built a really well-rounded team that was well coached. And look at them, they won 6 Super Bowls. This is I'm not calling Fremantle the next. I'm not calling them the next Giants. I'm not calling the New England Patriots of the AFL. That's getting a little bit too ahead of myself right now, even though I like to make those bold statements. But they're doing things the right way. They're absolutely doing things the right way. And then the team I want to shout is my biggest surprise because not only have they played consistently, they've played consistently well. Shout out to the St. Kilda Saints because hats off to you guys. You're proving everyone wrong and you're making me look a little bit right for my faith I had in you late last season. So, you know what? Thank you guys. I'm going not going to hang my hat on Essendon. Let's go St. Kilda now. Apparently that's the team I'm going to be riding with because the Giants still want to win a game of footy.
Oh, and it's great. And then the other thing I would say, a big surprise for me is Collingwood, Carlton, and St. Kilda all being having 4 teams from last year that were out of the finals that were in the finals, and then vice versa with Port Adelaide, GWS, and the Western Bulldogs all not being in. Like that's my biggest surprise is how much turnover. Normally you get 2, max 3 teams from the previous season will drop out of the finals and you'll get 2 to 3 new teams. But having half of your top 8 be teams that did not make finals last year is a big difference. So that's just now when the Western Bulldogs get there, there's a possibility. I think if they get healthy, I think they
Just
are
hope.
just as good enough team. They'll get there. But their injuries right now are in worse spots because they lost Tim English, who it's hard not to argue at the time of his injury, he's was one of the best rucks in the entire competition. Is he that dominant Max gone Brody Grundy ruck? No. But he made an impact. He went forward. He was kicking goals. He was getting intercept marks defensively. He was around the ground and making an impact on the game. So it's just their injuries are hitting in just the wrong places. And it's like you're almost kind of going that vaunted midfield that everybody said they're so deep, they're so good. Lockie Hunter goes out with mental health. And again, I want him to get healthy. I
Yeah.
want him to get in the
Yeah, I'm
right
not going to
headspace to play
criticize
footy the
him.
way he wants. But his absence now is looming super large because this was an Adelaide Crows team that statistically is the youngest team in competition every round. They have the least amount of games overall as a whole. So for them to for the Western Bulldogs to drop that game against Adelaide, and again, I'm not trying to bash Adelaide fans here. I'm not bashing you. I think you've got a lot for
Mm-hmm.
that's a bad loss. That is a bad loss, even
It
with some
is.
of the injuries that you have, and it's now got people questioning their midfield, which that was here with as deep
Yes.
as they were. Goes out this year now, and all of a sudden, is the midfield does the midfield have depth issues? That nobody would have thought that last year. So it shows you how differently this year could go. Is that one difference, and then the ruck issue has now thrown this Doggies team in to so much turmoil.
Mm-hmm.
Will they bounce back or not?
You know what? For the sake of when they finally play each other in a handful of rounds, I hope not. So it's like so the Giants have a chance of winning. But also, it's been a pretty big surprise, especially you know and it's hard because there's been signs of health. There's been signs of like that finals team is still there. But then once you start to feel like, oh, okay, they're coming back, guys, and it just gets shot right back down. And oh no, they still suck. Never mind. Um, so sorry to all you Doggies fans out there. Hopefully it gets better soon. Unless you play the GWS Giants, and I hope you suck. It's just going to be a horrible, horrible game, but somehow they might be able to make it good. Fingers crossed. And the next thing I want to talk about is Donnie. Was actually, we were talking about this earlier. This probably has a way bigger impact on us as Americans than you guys do as Australians because it looks like we might actually be getting Australian football on a different platform, live here in the US, besides just the Watch AFL app. And to people around the states, that is huge news because the AFL and Fox have been essentially just giving the finger to each other, I think, this year. Maybe their talks have gone a little bit more diplomatic than that one, but that's what it feels like as fans. We're just kind of getting kind of pushed to the side here. So do we have good news, Donnie? Do we have good change coming to us, or is it actually
Uh,
just going to be more of
okay,
bad?
Ross. As much that was a great intro, but the problem is there's a tiny bit wrong there. Okay,
Oh, what did I mess
the
up?
well here's let me fully explain it because then it'll make a
Okay.
lot of sense because
Okay.
if I do it like that, it will. Gil McLaughlin of the AFL is currently, if I read this correctly, is currently in New York because he has a meeting with the executive producer and he's trying to get meetings with Disney, aka ESPN Plus, and Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Basic is in two not this year and after next season, the broadcasting rights in Australia are up. It's kind of like your NFL, your
Oh, it's for
broadcasting
both.
rights.
Okay.
So what's
Okay.
actually happening here is trying to get a new deal set up before he goes this year to come on after the next deal ends after next season. Not for Americans, like, and and I don't mean to have it
Are we still getting screwed
miscommunicated
over
or
then? Damn it! I thought I actually had some hope.
let's
No.
let's wait
Oh,
half a second because
okay.
here's kind of my
Okay.
opinion on this. State it like this: do I think that a Paramount deal, a Disney slash ESPN Plus for many of us over here, sports fans over here in the states,
Mm-hmm.
this may actually be of a blessing in disguise because again, it's behind a paywall, so which I
Mm-hmm.
understand. Many people are, but here's the thing:
Yeah.
if for some crazy reason Disney does decide to pick this up, ESPN has the ability to play it on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Plus. So there is the possibility that we could get it over here on television if that deal were to sign. Now, Paramount Plus is CBS. So some of the CBS sports channels potentially could play AFL. So there is the possibility for here in the States that this deal that Gil's trying to work out could potentially see footy being a little bit more available, shall we
Mm.
say? Because if you look at Paramount, you look at Hulu slash Disney, the Disney Plus bundle slash Hulu slash
Mm-hmm.
ESPN Plus, there are a lot of subscribers that are subscribed to that are not sports fans or are sports fans that don't know about the AFL. So I think there's a hidden
There's a lot of
possibility.
those.
There's a hidden
I.
possibility that
Mm-hmm.
you could get some more footy fans off of this. So yes, I understand it's behind a paywall, and I get those arguments do, but I put this up to a few people. I said this potentially could get it in front of more eyeballs, at least here in the States,
Mm-hmm.
kind of on accident, shall we say. And it's not. It's not. It's. I mean, it's people that have now that pay for these subscriptions that get it. The one that frustrates me is I'm not an Amazon person. I never have been. So the people that do,
Yep.
I respect you. I don't want Amazon to do this because I don't want to have to get Amazon Prime to be able to see any footy, no matter what. So
Yep.
personally, I've already got Paramount Plus. I've already got the ESPN bundle and ESPN Plus. So
Yep.
if Disney or Paramount does this deal, I'm good because it will affect me almost none because I'm already got those particular streaming
Mm-hmm.
services. The question will be is it an add-on thing to where there's like a game or is there more to it? There's still a lot to be. Again, there's a lot of discussions, and this is in some. This could even be just Gil posturing, trying to get streaming service, so then he can get Telstra at home in Australia to throw
Mm.
in a few more $100 million to mostly keep it in the state, mostly keep it in Australia. So
Well, it
there's
definitely sounds like
still
to me that you like the ways like just TV in general going streaming services are huge. For me, I think the best case, at least personally, would be if ESPN, Disney, I guess, picks it up. Even though, like, if you guys actually know me, I am the farthest thing from a Disney fan. I hate ESPN. That's why I'm trying to, take them over somehow. So hop on the bandwagon, please. We got a little bit of work to do. But I kind of have to use ESPN because that's the UFC streaming main streaming service. It's on ESPN Plus. But also ESPN Plus is a huge service with how many sports it covers, how much extra stuff is there. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'd be willing to bet that it's one of the highest subscribed, at least with sports. It's probably the highest subscription rate of any subscription based kind of sports streaming service in the world. So if the AFL wants to get more eyes on this product, that would be huge. And also, especially when it comes to enticing Americans, most of the people I know at least know about, if not have an ESPN Plus account or at least use one. This would be getting a lot of people on board because if they're anything like me, all it took was, oh, I see half a game. I'm like, oh, I like this sport. I want to watch some more. You just have to get 5 minutes of footy in front of someone, and they're probably going to be a fan.
yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I've noticed too. Is like if you can get this game in front of Americans in certain ways, I think
Hmm.
you're going to get a lot more fans being able to get the access to it. So now again, this is the TV streaming rights for Australia. So there's a lot of things still up in the air. So and
Yep.
this is something that I don't think this is going to get done in the next week or so. This is, I mean, we're talking 2-3 months down the road. But I respect the guilds trying to find a way to kind of get it not only on free
Absolutely.
TV in Australia, but also trying to find a way to get it on streaming services because I mean so many sporting events and so many
More than just
sporting
to watch
codes
AFL app.
are trying to find a way to get it streamed. So
Hmm.
I understand that and respect that. My only worry is this going to become something where the only way to see it is behind a paywall?
Mm,
I mean, even back in
yep.
Australia, is that you've got KO but you've got free to air games on Channel 7 and Channel 9. So you've got
That's where it probably crosses
games.
the proverbial line, huh?
Well, and that's the thing where Paramount Plus owns 10 down in Australia. So some people are saying if Paramount Plus were to
Okay.
get it, it would still be okay for Australia because Channel 10 would then take over coverage for the free to air stuff. And then you'd
Hmm.
maybe get one game, maybe two games on Paramount Plus. The rest of it are on kind of the local channels enough. But
Hmm.
then it's like for us over here in the States is how does that affect Watch AFL?
Yep.
Watch AFL is a Fox connected thing. So if Foxtel doesn't get it, how does that affect it? Like there's a lot of
Th-
ramifications not only for Australians but also
I
for
really
American
do
fans
like
too.
the
So
Watch AFL app too.
and I do too.
I
I
think
think
it's
it's
it's a
very
good
good.
service. Yes.
Well, especially for
Also,
international fans.
yeah, most of the commentators as well. The Fox ones are my favorite. I can't really name them by name. I just know that they're fun. They're better than most of the ones I have to listen to here in the States. Maybe it's the accent. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know exactly what it is, but to me, it's just better.
It's Macca's.
Uh, no, and one thing as
It's all
well,
those
because I
awesome
know.
Macca's commercials.
Yes, that's the thing, Donnie. If they take away the only time I've ever enjoyed watching commercials over the last 6 years of my life, because Super Bowl ones suck now and they're never going to be good again. The only commercials I will put up watching are the Australian ones, and I can only get those on my Watch AFL app. I need that, and I need those to not be stripped away from me because well, actually, no, some of the on some of the streams I totally don't pirate are Australian ESPN streams or something like that, so I still get some good ones there. But I can't lose that. But also, I just think that this, if they can do the best of both worlds, where they get it on this on a streaming platform where more people could watch it, but also have the free to watch games in Australia as well. That's going to be the best solution here. But I preemptively feel bad for those Americans that go, oh, what sport is this? Australian football. Oh, this is really fun to watch. Oh, when's the next game? 3 in the morning. Ah, oh, damn it. Guess I'm not watching that one live. The horrible realization of what Australian viewing time is for us here in the States. Uh,
Unfortunately, it's something. It's something that you kind of learn to get used to it. Is that the times are never adequate, shall we say, for easy viewing. Now,
Unless we're talking about
unless you
later
get the
this
early
week where we
ones.
live stream at 9:45 Mountain Time, 10:45 Central Time, and 11:45 Eastern Time. And just for the hell of it, it's going to be at 8:45 Pacific Time. Coach Donnie and I, and maybe some special guests, will be streaming. Oh, was it Geelong? Geelong
Geelong
and
and
Hawthorne?
Fremantle at
Fremantle, that's
GMHBA
the one.
Stadium. Yep.
Yes, I should know. Now I'm stupid. But yes, that's going to be a good one. Actually, on in a decent time for us. So, say, hey, it's a Friday. I don't have a personal life. Coach, do you have a personal life? Apparently not. We're going to watch. So, I didn't mean to call you out like that. I'm calling myself out mostly.
It's at a decent time for me. So 10:45
Exactly.
I can handle on a Friday night because it's not like I have to rush to get up the next early morning. And the best part is
Sleep
Sydney
in on
doesn't
Saturday.
play till Sunday early AM, so I have plenty of time to sleep in. So I thought
See,
this is
that's
a
perfect.
cracking game. This is a cracking game between two top three sides. So what the heck? Why not?
So you guys got to come and tune in as we watch that one as well. But let's know your thoughts. What do you think about the whole TV and streaming situation that Gil is currently handling? And what's been the biggest surprise to you over the first 6 rounds? But it's time, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to say what the blank. It's time to fill in the blank. It's time to I'm running out of ideas here, I guess. It's what the blank, man. What the blank is wrong with me, and what the blank is what we're going to do because it's time for what the blank. Wow, wow. Who could have seen that one coming? I totally did not preface that one at all.
Who
But for
shocked
those
me
that,
there?
right, I really pulled the rug have you on that one. But we got for those that don't know how this works. It's essentially fill in the blank, but it's with a funny name because I like profanity. Ha! I'm so funny. But I got three statements for Coach Johnny here, and there's a blank either the beginning, the middle, or the end. And it's up to him to fill it in with whatever he so chooses. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be an essay, it could be a grunt. As long as he fills it in, that is the only rule here. But starting us off, statement number one, blank. Oh man, and to preface this, man, if you take a look at the injury report, especially if you're trying to, get your fantasy team set up, oh boy, it's a nightmare. So it was not a good round for injuries, especially if you're a ruck. They need to put you in a padded room in a little bubble ball so you don't get hurt. But statement number one, blank was the most impactful injury in round six.
Oh, this one's hard because I think that the two names that I think come up the most are the two rocks, and it's I even sparked some people to discuss if they need to change the rucking rules to be able to keep. And I agree with what one person said is they're freak accidents. They're not something that is done intentionally. It's
I
literally
don't think
just
they're necessarily
accident.
preventable.
Well, some people would say they're preventable, but it really does. It completely changes the ruck contest if you do change
Yeah.
it. So, I think they aren't accidents, and it's the P
Hmm.
injury, which tends to be a ruck injury because you got two very long, large men jumping up and they bang knees, and if one hits the knee just right, the PCL has issues. So both Brody Grundy and Mark Pitnet of Collingwood and Carlton, respectively, both
Hmm.
are out for at least 10 to 12 weeks of PCL injuries. And I went through the two of them, and it's hard to really separate them because you're separating hairs. If I had to choose one, I'd actually say Mark Pitnet because I think
Mm.
Carlton's midfield really benefited from having first footy. And when you have Cripps, when you have Walsh, when you have Chera, when you have Hewitt, a lot of very good first ball winning midfielders, they need the footy to make an impact. If
Hmm.
they're having to play defense, they're not as solid. Hewitt's a really good defending midfielder. Walsh is good. Chera is good. Cripps has his moments. It'll just kind of depend on where it is. If Carlton doesn't get the footy first, they are on the back foot, especially with their defensive woes that I think they're still having, which I think in the next few weeks we're really going to test and see how that back line really functions as they start playing better and better competition as the year goes on. So I Pitnet is actually the biggest injury because I think Jared Witz towed them up when Pitnet didn't play the previous week due to health and safety protocols. And Jared Witz absolutely tallied him up. And you saw Gold Coast beat Carlton. Carlton did not look the same. It was not the
Mm-hmm.
same team that we had seen previous weeks, which then, as many so eloquently did, is the joke that many Carlton fans were buying grand finals tickets. Now they're trying to sell them after they lost to Gold Coast. So it was kind of the great little circle of life that is as a Carlton Blues
Yeah.
supporter. So I think Mark Pitnet's injury I think is huge because they don't have another big body. They have DeConning, but DeConning is rather slight in size,
Mm-hmm.
so try to beat you athletically. But he's young, so he still doesn't have the ruck craft as say some of these older rucks that are going he's going to face over these next few rounds. So I think Pitnet is the biggest impact. I think Collingwood has enough size with Darcy Cameron and with Mason Cox. I think they have enough. Brody Majacek, I think, can pitch hit there enough that I think they'll be okay because they're not as ball necessary to make
Mm-hmm.
impacts because they're a little bit better defensively. Again, Carlton fans, no offense, but I think Collingwood's just a little bit surely sound defensively at this present point right now as the season is going. So I don't think Grundy's impact is much of a loss because Grundy's not the Grundy of 3 years ago where he was the best ruck in the entire competition. He could go up and down the field for days, no issues, good intercept marker, good kicker. He's kind of lost a few steps over the last couple of years. Where the impact is the same is probably one of the reasons why I would say that. So yeah, I think Mark Pittman is the bigger injury. So we'll have to see how Carlton's season goes because that's a big loss for them.
Mm-hmm. And statement number two, what we got for you guys is there's a lot of talk this time. It's the time of the year where you get some new contracts for some young players, and then some of the questions come up is there's actually a pretty good amount of candidates right now that you it could be the next one to sign that 10-year contract, that lifelong contract. So Donnie, statement number two, and hell, there's maybe even a giant or two on this one. But the next player to sign a 10-year contract will be blank.
Oh, next 10-year contract. Oh
Look into your
man.
crystal ball.
Honestly, there's two guys that pop right in the back of my head, and I'm interested to see if they have to go somewhere to get this contract or they could get it where they are.
Mm.
I could see one potentially not getting a 10-year contract because of it. And there's two, and they're both actually ruckman, and that's Luke Jackson of the Melbourne Demons and Tim English of the Western Bulldogs. And the reason that I
Mm.
say this is because Fremantle has spending money, and both of those two young men are Western Australians.
Oh.
So I am hearing from Damian Barrett, Matt Brown, and some of the reporters that both of those two are very very sought after players
Mm.
from both clubs out west to come home with their abilities because Nat Nui is probably on the latter half of his career. Yes, you've got Oscar Allen there, but how is that going to go? Are they going to try to get English? Are they going to try to get Luke Jackson to sign and come home to WA to be that roving ruckman for their WA club? I think Jackson is most likely the one that probably is going to get it because he's so talented. Can he get it at Melbourne? I think he can get it at Melbourne. Will he? Ooh, that's the big question because you've got guys like
Mm.
Petrarca, you've got guys like Oliver, you've got guys
Mm-hmm.
like Gone, all of them there. You've got May, you've got Lever, you've got
It's gonna be hard to
Brown,
pay
you've got.
someone in Melbourne.
I'm I'm going to say this, and again, Melbourne fans, I'm not trying to supersede this. I think Melbourne's going to start having the issue that Richmond had this coming off season that
Or
Richmond has
people
had for the
keep
previous
picking
three
players
seasons
away from them.
is that fringe players and players that are at the bottom part of your 22 are going to get big contracts, and you're going to lose talent, a lot like what's happened with Richmond. Richmond's
Hmm.
depth was picked apart like a crow eating a dead carcass. They're slowly picking away the meat of the carcass, and I think that's going to start happening to Melbourne, is that teams are going to start getting their players
Hmm.
to sign contracts away, and it's going to eat up that depth that Melbourne right now is benefiting from. They've got a ton of depth. They can handle injuries, but eventually a guy like Luke Jackson goes, and then a guy like Jake Bowie goes, and then Espargo. These younger players that are they're on the team, but they're not Clayton Olivers. They're not the Petracas. They're not the Levers. They're not the Mays. They're not the Gons.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to afford to pay all of these guys great big contracts. A team may. So that's where I'm kind of sitting. Where I think it's English or it's Jackson. I think is the next 10-year contract because they're still young. They're great ruck forwards that can go forward, kick goals, and I think there's a WA team that's willing to spend the money for the fact that they have a young list, and I think they've got the cash. They're going to try. And could I see it? Yes. So
No, I think you make some great points there, especially with the correlation of what the D's are to the Richmond Tigers, because we're talking about the D's in the way that, oh yes, it's Richmond is down and out. It's time for a new dynasty to take place. Is that the Melbourne Demons? Only time will tell. They've only won one flag. We'll have to see if they can win another. But also, they're a potential dynasty team with a Brownlow medal winner in there. Chris Petracca, i.e. to wow, I am horrible with names right now. Donnie, help me out. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Sweet damn it.
team
Why can I remember the greatest player in the league like a couple years ago when I first started watching? Um,
Dusty Martin.
Dusty, what the hell? It is a bad day to be live. Wow.
Well,
You know
and
it's bad
some good
when you're
news on that.
forgetting
He's back at Tigerland training. He won't play this week against the West
it's
Coast
two
Eagles,
more
but
weeks, right?
I think next
Yeah.
round, not this round. I think next round potentially he could be back. Just kind of depends. Supposedly he came back in super good nick. He's been had running days the last couple of days. They said he looks fit. He looks fit and firing. He looks good. So it will not shock me if, let's see, this is round 7, I believe. This
Be
is,
back by
yeah.
round
I
10.
think, it will not shock me if round 8, Melbourne Cricket Ground
Ooh.
versus Collingwood, the Dusty Martin is in the lineup. It will not shock me a bit.
Ooh. Ooh, wouldn't that bring the fans there? Hot damn. But I think if I had to choose one team to be able to like maybe buy English, let's put team English out there. Between those WA teams, West Coast and Fremantle, I would love, and if I just had to throw a prediction out there, predicting, no, it's a prediction within the prediction. It's going off your prediction of who's the next, 10-year guy, and it's a prediction of what team is going to go to. So this is a big leap, in terms of the odds, but him in purple and gray sounds like a mighty fine future, especially if Frio keeps up this season. Who knows? They maybe need to add just an extra piece. And if you need to add just an extra piece to complete your team, Tim English is definitely a piece that fits into any puzzle of any team.
Well, and all due respect to Rory Lobb, but I think a vast upgrade. No, all due respect,
Oh
and
yeah.
Rory Lobb's been playing pretty well. But I think Tim English is an upgrade because then Sean Darcy doesn't have to ruck most of the game. He can go rest up full
Gosh.
forward, and
Mm-hmm.
he is a resting full forward with his size and mass and ability. That is a
Wait, so Sean
dangerous thought
Darcy is a resting full
process.
forward while you also have a fantastic rock there?
Where you have a
That
fantastic
is
running ruck in Tim
scary.
English. Well, in the
Oh,
like I said,
lethal.
think about it. If it's not English and it's Luke Jackson goes out there, Jackson already knows how to be a good resting ruck slash full forward with Max gone. So he's already been able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Darcy and Jackson together. I mean, again, it's a twin tower situation. So I'm very fascinated to see how it goes. Now, I mean, is there a possibility that Jackson signs a small contract to stay with Melbourne and winning big, yes, this is definitely a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
How this season goes for the Western Bulldogs could make or break whether English stays, because he is kind of that linchpin of their team. And if he goes, I mean, Stephen Martin is on the
latter half of his year.
So imagine the Doggies having the issue of Tim English goes and signs with Fremantle, Stephen Martin retires. Now the Doggies got to go looking for a ruckman. Oh boy, that'll be quite interesting. Yes, they've got some guys
Like Sam Darcy, who potentially could
be a ruck as your youngster, but do you want an 18-year-old stepping in the ruck? No, you don't. You don't really want an 18-year-old stepping into
and Witts and Darcy
and Riley O'Brien and either Laddams
Definitely
or Hickey
seems like
or Braden Proust. There's
ruck
so
is
many
important.
big bodies. Exactly. So
Yeah,
it'll be very interesting.
You got to develop a little bit more too. And also, a shout out to Raw. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming as well. He says that there won't be any more 10-year contracts. Just puts the salary cap of clubs under too much pressure. So maybe 10-year contracts are in the past like 1,000 goal kickers and 100 goal kickers as well. Your thoughts on that? Is it dead?
I can see it just because of the fact that most of these 10-year contracts are very difficult to get through. Like when Buddy signed his,
I wouldn't be surprised.
His contract,
like everybody was like, "There's no way he'll
get through it. There's no way he'll get to the end of his contract." He did, but it took a lot. And season where he didn't,
at least a full season,
at least one full season where he didn't play, and a couple of seasons where he played 2 or 3 games. Many people in Collingwood land say, did Grundy sign his contract and then he's went to absolute to the what hole since then? Yes, you could say that. So I agree. I think it's hard to find a 10-year contract. I absolutely agree with that. I don't think you see a 10-year contract. I see you 5-6-year contracts, maybe then max, but even that's pushing it, because way the wear and tear on the body that these guys have to go through, it is difficult. It is very, very difficult to get through, considering the average nowadays is like 2 seasons. So I agree. I don't see a 10-year contract. Oh yeah, exactly. They're going to get kicked up and spit out, and especially at the ruck position. But the signing for life situation is more of probably a couple of 2 or 3 year contracts here and there once they hit their prime, when their biggest money situation, and then that's probably your career at 10 or 12 years max. And even again, it's hard to find guys that are going to get 12, 13, 14 years, because the game is physical. I think the 300 and 400 game monikers are going to be much less and less frequent, which is the other reason why I agree. I have a hard time seeing too many people get close, because if guys are only playing for 10 seasons, you got to kick 100 goals to get 1,000, unless you're going to have a 13, 14 year season, and then you're still having to kick 70. Not easy, because the way defenses are structured. I mean, you're winning the Coleman at 75. Can you do 75 10 consecutive years? That's not easy, because teams
do 100 and just be a 100 goal kicker each year for 10. That would be
it'd be great to have, but it hasn't happened for years, unfortunately. I mean, we don't have the Dunstals, the Plugger Lockett seasons where you got guys kicking 120, 130 goals that,
consistently kicking like 8 to 10 goals a game. Just ridiculous numbers. Taking a look back, when I took a look back at like Plugger's numbers and stuff like that, I was looking at that on the lead of Buddy kicking 1,000. It doesn't make sense. Like, especially with the game that I've seen over the last 3 years, I can't even comprehend how that is a thing. But apparently 5 is going to be the new 10 in the future. And speaking of 10, add a couple zeros, because that is going to be my half-ass segue. Statement number 3. Marvel Stadium means blank to me. I put this out there because we're on the verge of its 1,000th game with the Essendon and the Doggies in round 7.
Because for me, Marvel Stadium means we kept footy. Because if you look back to 2020, if it weren't for the AFL owning Marvel Stadium, we may now have footy. I mean, footy could have went under, because so much finances were in it. They were going to have the season. There goes the TV contract. There goes all this money for these clubs. So Marvel Stadium, really, it's hard to argue not the
reason we still have
footy nowadays, because they got a big, massive loan, some over $600 million from the stadium to be able to finance 2020's end of the season with all of the hubs and everything like that. And that's the reason why footy came on. So for me, Marvel Stadium means we kept
alive, because if it went for that,
who knows if we would still have the AFL as it is, still functioning after all that happened during the COVID situation.
That's a fantastic point. To me, I guess with Marvel, my first introduction to Marvel was a few years ago. And it wasn't even for footy; it was for MMA. The UFC had an event there with Israel Adesanya taking on Robert Whitaker. I believe that was when Izzy took the middleweight championship for the first time. So, and I just to see that tiny little octagon, that 30-foot wide octagon in that giant stadium was quite the spectacle. And also, I thought it's so funny how they had like 50 rows of, like little just plastic chairs on ground level. I'm like, how do you see that? Right? Even your 50 rows back, there's just one tall person in front of you, and that's it. It's over.
You just had to look at the.
Yeah, you know what? It would be cool to be there in person if you have to watch on the big screen, especially in that moment. But Marvel Stadium, I think it's a really good looking stadium. It's one of those nice ones. Is it historic? Is it like the MCG? No, it's not. But it's a beautiful looking stadium, and I think like most of the stadiums that the AFL plays in, they're all pretty good looking. Even the smaller capacity
if they're not-
ones.
Well, and even if they're not brand new, they have history. I mean, you look at the Adelaide Oval and you look at the
Exactly.
Sydney Cricket Ground, they have a lot of history. And then if you look at just the outline of the Adelaide Oval, it's just view
of the old scoreboard,
that kept
Yep.
track
And I
of
think
cricket
they
scores
look
for
good as well.
years. Oh, exactly. And the Sydney Cricket Ground, a lot of people still say one of the pictures that
doesn't have the old stand
in the background, and it's this really cool architecture in the back. So they are gorgeous stadiums. Yes, I mean, you've got the Marvel that is Optus Stadium. That's the brand new stadium that was built in like a coliseum, which is absolutely fantastic.
And Optus is a pretty bitchin' stadium.
Exactly.
There's no denying that.
And then the MCG has all the history. It has the massive capacity over around 100,000. But each and every one of the stadiums that
most of the games
throughout the AFL season all have some kind of great thing about them. The GABA has history. The SCG has history. And Marvel's got history.
The funny thing
They
I find
all
is
have
that
a soul. They all have a soul. It's hard to find that in some, especially the newer.
Unless you talk to the Richmond coach, there is no soul
Oh.
in Marvel.
Oh,
I
that's
couldn't
great.
resist
We
that,
gotta get it digging, you guys. Just go hug
well,
your
and the fa-
flags.
well,
But
and the
like,
fact
especially
that-
the modern stadiums, especially in the States, there's some that just don't have a soul. Like the Texas Rangers Stadium. Okay, the inside, it's gorgeous, but if you're looking for the outside, it looks worse. They literally took a airplane hangar and slapped a big old T on the side, and boom, there's your stadium. It's not good.
Well, many of the new stadiums,
they're
built
so
so fancy and funky to where they got all this, and they're almost becoming geometric. The new
stadium in Georgia is absolutely
ridiculous the way it's built.
U.S.
So,
Bank Stadium. Yeah.
yeah. Well, in the
Even
new
though I
SoFi
think that one's kind of
Stadium,
cool,
the new
Vikings, the
SoFi
front kind of looks like the
Stadium.
bow of a ship. SoFi, I do kind of like SoFi though. I'm gonna be honest, it's pretty nice. Allegiant looks like a giant Roomba in the middle of a desert. Not sure if I'm a fan of that one.
But here's the thing.
It's a perfect vacuum. Of course, you need a vacuum for that team, is because it's trying to clean up the trash as the Las Vegas Raiders. Even on the AFL show, I still found a way to trash on the Raiders. I win.
Well, let's
go to
this. The other funny thing when it comes to Marvel Stadium is the fact is that you got to ask what era you were watching originally, because the thing has changed names so many times. It's Dockland Stadium. It's stadium.
It's Marvel Stadium. The thing has changed.
3 or 4 times. So it depends on when abouts you paid attention to footy there, because it's changed names several times. Like sometimes when I'm talking to Aussies, they start talking about Docklands, and originally I go, oh yeah, we were talking about Marvel. Because that's what its name is now, because it's changed several times. So again, it doesn't have the history that the MCG does, but it is a stadium that has
Characteristics to it.
It is a faster ground because it has the roof. Like the MCG doesn't have a roof, so you can play indoors in the middle of the winter, and you can shut the roof, and it's nice, perfect footy weather. There's no wind,
You mean
none
summer?
of that. So
You got to remember, it's a winter sport down there.
sir,
No, I know. I just want to throw. Now I'm talking smack about your guys' season patterns. What now? What are you going to do? Put a hot dog and not eat it in the bun, but on a piece of white bread? You freaking weirdos.
Be careful there.
Bunnings in the sausage sizzles.
I am
very, 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 very Aussie. Don't. I wouldn't trash that. Be very careful where you try.
Hey, who should I avoid insulting more? The Snag or Crocodile Dundee? I don't know which is more of a national treasure.
I don't know.
I think you can probably get it a little bit more of the Crocodile Dundee, because it's such.
I definitely can't talk smack about Steve Irwin. I stay away.
No, you can't. You can't do that. That's much of an institution.
There, but
No,
That's a whole country turning on you in an instant.
very, very quickly.
Not-
again, be very.
I'm not
careful
trying
when
to
it
get
comes to the
canceled for
sausage.
a wrong take on Steve Irwin. I'm more okay with it being like, he's I do love a good sausage. All right, I'm gonna get hungry.
Yep.
Let's keep going.
You got your onion. You got your onion.
Do
You
it.
got your onions too, and your tomatoes, and your
Grilled
tomato.
onions. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, keep
Put
that
that there
Vegemite
and go.
away
Fast
from me.
sausage sizzle.
Keep that Vegemite away from me. You guys are weird. You know it's bad when even Australians are super torn on it as well. So I don't want to hear it. Also, it's just they're going to attack me with like they're going to like ship me a dingo or something like that. I don't know if that's possible. Is that? Can you? I'm sure if I had enough money, I could order a dingo. I don't know why I'm talking about this. Let's get back on track.
So bad.
Oh, but that's gonna do it for What the Blank. Who you guys think is the most impactful injury so far, and what are the odds that you buy me a dingo? Drop that in the comments or on the stream right now. Would love to hear. My girlfriend loves dogs. Dingoes, essentially it, except they're more prone to eating babies. So hey, just give me a pit bull instead, possibly. But it's time for. Oh man, I'm saying a lot of things. Oh man, you guys are in for something this round. This is what happens while I'm mentally exhausted from the day. A lot of stupid stuff just comes out of my mouth unplanned. Hopefully that adds to your guys' enjoyment and not malice towards me. But what we're going to jump into now, before we get into our tips, it's time for the greatest list in all the lands, the one that spans across the biggest ocean in the galaxy. And I can say that because I don't know about a bigger ocean. So without further ado, it is time for Coach Donnie's Team of the Round. Coach, throw it at us. What you got for us this round?
Oh man, this would be a fun one, because there's especially for the forwards, we had a lot of guys kicking a lot of bags, so there was definitely a little bit easy and some interesting performances. Let's jump right into it. Again, we always start team of the week with the defenders, because defenders win championships. Let's start off with Adelaide's Billy Frampton, 26 disposals, 10 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 502 meters gained. Continuing an amazing season and an amazing story is Carlton's Sam Doherty, 32 disposal, 6 intercept possessions, 3 score involvements, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and 400 meters gained. Yes, they didn't play very well, but we got to get a guy into the team of the week from the North Melbourne Roos, and that is Luke McDonald with 22 disposals, a goal. How come that's so North Melbourne
this year?
4 intercept possessions, 7 marks, 3 tackles, and 379 meters gained. Mr. Consistency, and that is Geelong's Tom Stewart, 23 disposals, 8 intercept assists, 5 score involvements, 9 marks, and 495 meters gained. The man with the leg, that is Brisbane's Daniel Rich. 26 disposals, 7 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 6 score involvements, 3 marks, 3 tackles, and 307 meters. Yes, Richmond did not get the Chunkies, but again, another great performance on the defensive end by Nick Vlosten. 30 disposals, 13 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 12 marks, 3 tackles, and 544 meters gained. We jump to the ruck, and he's back, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, he's injured, but he still gets my team of the week starting Brody Grandi of the Collingwood Magpies. 16 disposals, a goal, 4 intercept possessions, 2 goal assists, 6 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 clearances, 33 hitouts, and 241 meters gained. I find it really funny. My midfielders this year, there's a couple of superstars and a couple of kind of surprises here. So I'm interested to see what some of you guys think of this. Midfielders will start off. GWS's Callum Ward has an incredible game out to start off against the St. Kilda Saints with 21 disposals, 2 goals, a behind, 4 intercept possessions, 7 score involvements, 4 marks, 9 tackles, and 360 meters gained. Again, kind of showing how the Western Bulldogs midfield has been kind of up in the air. We have Adam Treloar from the Western Bulldogs getting the nod here with 22 disposals, 2 goals, 6 score involvements, 3 clearances, 5 tackles, and 220 meters gained. Port Adelaide's Dan Houston continuing a good season for him, making up for some of the deficiencies at Port Adelaide with 33 disposals, a goal, 11 intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 clearances, 4 tackles, and 457 meters gained. He's out 1 week, he's back, and he, again, goes right back into the team of the week with a great performance, and that is Carlton's Patrick Cripps. 32 disposals, 3 goals, a behind, 3 intercept possessions, 7 score involvements, 4 marks, 8 clearances, 3 tackles, and 1 meters gained. No, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a homer pick because this gentleman had one heck of a game against Hawthorn, and that is Sydney's Callum Mills. 37 disposals, a goal, 7 intercept possessions, a goal assist. It's 11 marks, 6 clearances, 5 tackles, and 660 meters gained. We jump to the men that kick the goals, and lordy, oh lordy, did we have a lot. We'll start off with St. Kilda's Jack. 18 disposals, 4 goals, 3 behinds, 3 intercept possessions, a goal assist, 10 score involvements, 9 marks, 3 tackles, and 427 meters gained. Port 14 disposals, 5 goals, a behind, 7 score involvements, 11 marks, 7 tackles, and 343 meters gained. And his fellow counterpart, also from the Port Adelaide, is Mason. 19 disposals, 5 goals as well, 2 behinds, 2 goal assists, 11 score involvements, 6 marks, 3 tackles, and 295 meters gained. Setting a record is Jeremy Cameron. 16 disposals, 7 goals, 3 behinds, a goal assist, 13 score involvements, 928 meters gained. A particularly impressive performance from Zach Bailey of the Brisbane Lions. 17 disposals, 6 goals, 8 score involvements, 3 marks, 319 meters gained. 3 of his goals in the wet was pretty impressive there, so I gotta give him a nod.
That was a really good showing. It didn't even look like if you didn't watch the game, you wouldn't even know it was raining.
Yeah, especially his one-handed pickup for the snap goal that he did. I think it was his 4th or 5th. Yes. That was an incredible goal there. And last but not least, starting in the start, the man, the myth, the legend at such a young age, and that's Collingwood's Jack Ginnivan. 12 disposals, 5 goals, 5 score involvements, 5 marks, and 355 meters gained. We jump to the bench.
1 crowd silencer. I want to put that stat in there as well.
All right, we jump to the bench. Also from the Collingwood Magpies, defender Jeremy Hassels. Intercept possessions, 4 score involvements, 13 marks, and 335 meters gained. Our midfield bench player is Mr. Jared Lyons of the Brisbane Lions. 30 disposals, a goal, 13 clearances, 10 tackles, and 873 meters gained. Continuing another great season is the Rockman from the Fremantle Dockers, Sean Darcy. 12 disposals, a goal, a behind, 4 intercept a goal assist,
7 scored involvements,
6 marks, 3 clearances, 3 tackles, and 29 hitouts for the big ruckman from the Dockers. And rounding out our team of the week is Geelong's 4 Hawkins, 17 disposals, 4 goals behind, 2 goal assists, 10 score involvements, 5 marks, and 321 meters gained. And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, there were a lot of goals kicked alone, considering 4 goals was the minimum to make my team of the round this year in the forward. So it's showing you 3 goals ain't good enough because you almost got to get.
That's
4
been
to
like
get
most
on
of the
team
season
week.
too. Most of the season is probably you got to kick 4. Man.
Well, this is the second straight week the top goal kicker for the round has 7 in his pocket. So that was pretty impressive there. So just
Jimmy
great goal
Cameron's
kicking.
something else. Man, it sure would be cool to see him in orange and gray right about now, or charcoal, but you know. I want to take maybe we'll have to do that. Like halfway through the season, we'll have to take a look back at that trade they made a year and a half ago. You know, it was 3 first rounders for Jeremy Cameron. There's clearly, at least as of now, there's one team having a lot more success right now. So that's one thing we'll keep on the back burner, you guys, and we could retake a look at that draft and how that could be a fun series to do in the off season. Maybe we'll throw some ideas out there. What do you think, Donnie? Keep an eye on that.
It's definitely one to keep an eye on because again, you almost look at it too. Do you look at it as does Geelong win the trade if they get a premiership flag, or does GWS win it if Geelong doesn't? Because in the long run, yes, Jeremy Cameron takes over as the kind of top forward goes, but in the long run, you've got some 3 first round picks that GWS will have. That's altogether could potentially span another 5 to 7 more years after Jeremy Cameron. So it kind of depends on how you look at it a little bit.
Also, it's up to your philosophy as well. So I love it. It's going to be a good debate because there's plenty of subjectivity in it. So subjectivity breeds controversy. Controversy means views. Let's get some views, baby, and let's piss some people off. Apparently, It works for some of these pundits, like some of these guys, you know, in the AFL media. I'm not going to name names, and it's definitely not just because I can't name their names off the top of my head. It's because I don't want to start beef for sure. But some of them, you know, just say some ass. And this is the NFL world too. And Stephen A. You know, 10% of the time he might be right. 90% of the time he's loud and wrong, but he's entertaining, so he gets views and he makes a shit ton of money from ESPN. So that is on us as sports fans, apparently. Not me, because I don't watch him. Not you. I highly doubt you would be the one to watch him. So I'm blaming everyone else out there. I don't know who, but if you see this finger, maybe just assume it's for you. All right, maybe the finger lands on the right person. But we're going to kind of wrap things up here.
If you want a Stephen A. Smith that I believe that does kind of this, that's still surprised people even take his opinion, and that'd be Kane Corns for many people. Kane Corns is your Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, dude.
He will say something that literally makes no sense, and it comes out of a complete left field. Eat it up, like the whole Jack.
Oh, you mean how?
Drama.
Are you going to talk about how
literally
the D's are actually taking a look at trading away Christian Petrarca right now?
I don't know he'd go that far, but I know there was one year he was going to win the grand final. He didn't even make the finals that year. So he does have his moments.
Oh, that's a tough one. Oh, yeah, damn.
I remember. I can't remember who it was, but he said a team was going to make it to the grand final, potentially win the grand final, and they didn't even make the finals that year. So it was like I almost started laughing. So he Stephen A. Smith moments where he says something, you're just like, dude, what?
It wasn't him last year, but there is definitely. It wasn't him last year, but I forget who exactly said that both the D's and the Doggies are not going to make the grand final. Neither team is. Heath Shaw. Oh, bro, I saw that.
Defender.
I don't want. I'm not claiming him for that one.
Oh, he ate crow for months.
I saw that post. I saw that post. I was on my Twitter feed. I'm like, oh, this is going to age horribly. And you bet your ass I bookmarked that. Oh, poor guy. Hopefully he could live that one down eventually, but not right now. But speaking about potentially having to live down bad takes, let's get into our tips for round 7 of the AFL season. This is one where both, like I mentioned earlier, both Donnie and I are riding off a little bit of a tipping high from last round. We both went 8-1. You got the Crows and the Doggies game wrong. I got the Freo and the Carlton game wrong. Damn you, Blues. I was so close to greatness. I'm so proud of my Adelaide Crows take. So, like I did a little bit of teasing earlier in the show, so it's time to fulfill said tease. I will scratch the itch that I gave you guys. But the first game that we got here is going to be the West Coast Eagles and the Richmond Tigers. Richmond, not great. West Coast, even worse. Are we going with the best of the worst?
I'm gonna go Richmond on this just because the West Coast, they're still. I believe that many of the issues that they're running into is more of people coming back from COVID, actually having COVID, than people being having to sit out for COVID protocols. And I think that's kind of the thing that's been a people has been should we be able to find out whether they actually had COVID or not, which again, that kind of goes against your medical, whether you should be.
Yeah.
Medical information or not. So again,
I understand it for pundits, but it is kind of a thing where it is a privacy thing. So I understand the health and safety protocol.
There's going to be a journalist that wants to get their hands on that.
I'm going to tip Richmond. I don't like the mojo of the West Coast Eagles right now, but I'm going to say it. Coast Eagles team that once they get kind of back to normal, and again, I air quote this a lot, then they are going to be a team that is going to scare a lot of teams in the finals because they're going to be a 16th, 17th, 15th rated team that can beat any finals team because they've got a lot of experience and a lot of talent. So I'm going to tip Richmond on this one just because I still don't think West Coast is there yet. So I don't think they're back to that kind of 85. But I think then they'll be a team that'll be dangerous. So I'm going to tip Richmond on this one.
This next one, I'm not, I guess, too surprised by the percentages, but I am surprised by the betting odds on this one. We got the game that, like we said earlier, we are going to be live streaming this one over on our Twitch channel. So Twitch TV, twitch.tv/Fourth Long Media. It's on our website, thefourthlong.com. Just go there for everything.
We'll put out the link.
It's exactly. Follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. But it's between the Geelong Cats and the Freo Dockers. 84% of tipsters are going with the Cats. I'm not too surprised about that. But we got, the odds is $1.29 for the Cats and $3.63 for Freo. So sizable underdogs in this one. I'm not sure if I agree. I am going with the Cats, but I could definitely see Freo pulling this one out.
This is one of those legitimately. I looked at it.
Much.
Well, no, I looked at this one and I went, where this game is played is gonna depict my tip. Legitimately went, this game is at GMHBA, or if it was in Victoria, even if it was up at the MCG, I'm gonna tip the Cats because the travel sometimes bothers Freo. If it was in Optus Stadium, legitimately, I would tip Freo. I would tip Freo because I think Freo plays Optus Stadium so much better. I think the Cats can play Optus because it's a lot like the MCG, a little bit better than some do. But I would still, so this one's, I'm going to tip the Cats because it is GMHBA. I think it fits style a little bit more. But this will not shock me. A bit if Fremantle wins this because the way Freo is playing right now, they are defensively smothering. They don't give up a lot of points. They're so good. They're starting to find their ability to kick goals, which is dangerous when you can keep teams from scoring and you can score more than you were last year.
Well, remember, take a look at Freo last year because one of the big things, Freo would have been a lot better team if they could kick straight. It was a running joke that I had each game that, oh, wow, They kicked so many. They got their behinds kicked because they were just horrible in putting it through the two middle poles that you're supposed to. But luckily for them, Donnie, I believe what Frio did over the offseason, they put their nose in their literature. They read the rule book. They're it's the middle ones that are 6 points, not the outer ones. We'll kick it through the middle, and look at them. They're amazing.
Well, and you look at it, how many times last year did they kick more behinds than goals? And that really changed. That
More
changes
than
the
half the
games.
time, right? More
Well,
than half.
you kick behinds and you
5 of those behinds.
that's you're talking 24 points more
Mm-hmm.
per game if you kick 5 more goals than you do behinds, because you go from just getting 1 point for a kick to 6 points. You're adding an extra 5 points extra kick that you get when you
Donnie
kick it
has
between the
risen
goalposts.
calculus expert.
Just simple math. It's plain and simple math there. So it's but like I said, this
I like
is
those numbers. I can count them on my hands.
I can okay, but
Well,
I'm gonna love this game. Like this is, I think it's the reason why I love. Surprisingly for such a great game, decent
time over here in the States.
I cannot wait because this is going to be champagne footy. I think this is going to be a
Yes.
classic. I think this comes down late fourth quarter. Like I said, I think the Cats win it. But if this was an Optus Stadium, I would legitimately tip Frio Antle.
Yeah. Now this next one, if we want to talk about surprises, surprise to me is a GWS win. Now this it really wouldn't be the biggest upset of the round, that's for sure. It's probably gonna be a closer game. At least I hope it's gonna be a closer game than I pessimistically might be thinking. We got 82% of tipsters rolling with the Adelaide Crows. I don't blame them because offensively just all around they've looked like a real team. I'm going with them. It's the Adelaide Oval. It's a good environment for the Crows. And I just have zero confidence in Giants.
I'm also tipping Adelaide, but this is one of those that I did have GWS at first when I first started tipping GWS.
It's a prototypical
Typical GWS that they'll fall apart in a game against St. Kilda. Cameron will take them in, grab them by the scruff of their neck, shake them a little bit, go, come on, get your heads out of a body cavity. You really shouldn't be seeing people. And then they find a way to play a great game their next game. Like it's like it takes a few seconds for the message to fully assimilate into their brains. So I'm worried that this is an Adelaide Crows team that's now starting to get a lot of compliments. That do they over US team that everybody's going, well, they're 1-5, they're not playing well. Cameron's on the hot seat. I mean, this is almost a perfect storm for a young team to slip up. I'm going to tip the Crows in this one because, again, Adelaide Oval, I think it's going to be hopping. I think the Crows fans are starting to get up and about. They're enjoying watching footy. Tex Walker is playing out of his skin right.
I'm so glad he's back. He's amazing when he's on. He's so
But
exciting.
I'm going to tell you this right now. GWS winning this game will not shock me a bit because that's just the way this is. I don't know. They're an enigma at times because games that I think they should be much more competitive, they don't. And then in a game, I'm thinking they're down on confidence, they're down on form, and they pull one out. I'm going to tip Adelaide on this one, but it will not shock me if GWS wins this game at all. Will not shock me a bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate the confidence there. And speaking about shock, it's time for me to scratch that itch because we get to the Melbourne Demons, the Hawthorn Hawks. And if you, it's my one of the week. It's my one of the week. And I think I'm like 50-50 on this one, so it's not horrible. But we're going for it. Me and the other 4% of tippers out there, let it ride on the Hawthorn Hawks. They're going to take down the D's, and they're going to give them the first loss of the season. It's happening. Let's get behind it. $4.35 as an underdog. Oh yeah, bet the house. Please don't take a betting advice from me. But yeah, let's let's go Hawthorn.
I'm going to tip Melbourne on this one. I think Hawthorn is still
Weird. Why would you
team.
do that?
They're still learning.
Bad take.
I just think there's too much talent, and I think Max Gawn is going to expose Max Lynch a lot like what Peter Laddams did. I think I'm interested to see how this one goes. Does Melbourne put the Hawthorn stay in this? Because
I want to see that.
Because if Hawthorn stays in
Mhm.
this, if I'm a top 8 club, I'm much more confident that you can pull an upset on Melbourne if they stay close. Pump Hawthorn
By 80,
then I'm a little worried because now they're starting to play better teams. And if they pump them and beat them by 80 or 85, then I'm a little concerned. If they beat less than 3 goals, if I'm a top 8 side, I'm going, okay, come on, Demons. I think we can beat you now because there's um there's a weakness that I don't think a lot of people expected.
gets
Out,
you got some of the injury.
you got some of the the COVID protocol issues. So will it be a
Mhm.
full? But this is a
Depth.
Melbourne team that has so much depth. They're a scary team. Bailey Fritsch is still on there. Ben Brown's still on there. Gone still. Petranka's still there. Oliver's still there. So I'm not as worried about them. And I
Mm.
kind of look at it is that is this going to show a little bit more of a vulnerability to better teams, or is this going to show that Melbourne is they're just getting into second gear and they've still got third, fourth, and fifth gears still to come?
This is going to be a perception, changer of either team on the line on this one, no matter what happens. So I'm super excited for that one. And now we get a stretch of 4 games where I really feel like there's only one answer to who we're going to tip there, Donnie. Are you reading my mind as well?
There's only one in this little run that I'm as I
Gold
said earlier
Coast?
in the show, I'm still debating in that the Gold Coast Collingwood. I agree with
Yep.
you. I think St. Kilda beats Port. I think Port is still not 100% there again. Lysette not
Nope.
being there still, I think, hurts this Port team. I think Alair has shown better. I think his matchup with the King, with Ben King here, I think is a much more favorable. Or is it Max? I can never which I'm sorry. The King brother that's on the St. Kilda Saints is playing out of his skin right now. Can Alair shut him down? And then can their young defense keep Higgins and keep this really quick forward line in check? Carlton should easily beat North Melbourne as long as they show up normal. Again, how does the pit net injury affect it? Because Goldstein's still there. So will Carlton have to start defensively to kind of counteract the loss of the bounce of the rock contests? And I think the Western Bulldogs, yes, they're without English. Yes, they're without.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've just got a little too much. This Essendon team, but that's the other one. Like if I rank it from most likely to see an upset, that I would go Gold Coast 1, and then I'd go the Essendon Bombers 2. I think that's the most likely upset.
Yeah, you're
3
right.
would be Port
You're right.
Adelaide, St. Kilda. North Melbourne would be the least likely to pull the upset. But then again, though, the way this footy season is going, you could see all 4 potentially win here because there's a vulnerability on each. Port Adelaide's playing better. St. Kilda has not. St. Kilda really hasn't played elite teams yet. North Melbourne, they're facing an injured a pit netless Carlton team that I think has shown some vulnerabilities defensively. And if they can get offense from Zerha, from Zeeble, from Jai Simpkin, from Goldstein, upset there. Gold Coast, Witz is an incredible ruck. I think he can really put himself there. And no Brody Grandi, I think, can even this game out. Gold Coast has got a very good shot. I'm going to tip St. Kilda, Carlton, Western Bulldogs. I'm going to tip the top teams. But Gold Coast and Essendon and Port are the 3 I could sit here and say it will not surprise me if they win it, with Gold Coast, Essendon, Port in that order of how I see potentially upsets there. And well, let's jump to
The
the last
one is the hardest one of the round for
coin
me.
toss for most people.
It's horrible.
Brisbane at the
Well, it's a coin toss
SCG.
on the odds as well right now. If you're one of the tipsters, it's 52% to the Swans, and then obviously 48 to the Brisbane Lions. Dude, this is a tough one. Like, I'm going with Sydney because I've been riding with them on the season, so I'm just going to default to them. But man, if they're anything that we've seen from the last, if they play like they did the first half against Hawthorn, they're probably in for a rough night. If they play like they did the first quarter against North, it might be in for a rough night because Brisbane scores so fast. So it'd be hard to catch up if they need to. I don't know if you could get behind by like 3-4 goals against this Brisbane team right now and
And
be able to
that
come
is
back.
that is a great point. That I think the stumbles in the first half of games against Hawthorn and against North Melbourne, I think has got a lot of Swans fan, and it is even because of that. I
I don't blame
normally
them.
am always kind of I'm the eternal pessimist when it comes to my tipping. I hate tipping for Sydney. I tend to kind of play the double edged sword. I tend to tip for Brisbane because then I can cheer for. Because if they lose, I get
The
the
tip
break.
right.
If they win, I get my team wins. So
It's like
it's kind
me
of
in
the
fantasy football.
it's kind of the having the cake and eating it too. I'm tipping Sydney because here's
There's just
how I
one
look at it.
cake that tastes better.
How I look at it like this: Sydney defensively is still pretty good. Yes, you lose Patty McCartan, but I think you've still got some backups that are coming that are going to be fine. It isn't the tall forward line I think a lot of people think it is. After McAdams and after Danaher, it's a lot of shorter players. The mid-sized Zach Bailey's, the small forward Charlie Cameron. So it's not a hugely tall forward line
Hmm.
like some people are making it out. So I think if you bring in and you have Tommy McCartan will take Danaher, Sam Reed will most likely take Mistay, Cunningham will take Charlie Cameron. I think you've got a good enough defensive ability to be able to shut Brisbane down. The D for Sydney may be how does Peter Laddams handle Oscar McInerney? Because
Mm-hmm.
McInerney is a big body that tends to be physical. Laddams is a little more skilled ruckman, and he's faced rather younger ruckman the previous 2 weeks, and because he's facing guys that are not nearly as skilled as him, Max Lynch, and then the young guy from the West Coast Eagles. Is his confidence up that he's going to go into this McInerney matchup and be able to perform as well as he has over the previous 2 weeks? If he does, I think Laddams can be better than McInerney. That's going to give him an advantage. And if they can win the taps, Callum Mills is playing well. Most likely, you may see Josh Kennedy come in. You've still got the Warner. You've still got Blakey. You've still got Rowbottom, a very young midfield, and Callum Mills can play a tagging role on Lockie Neal. And if you can take Lockie Neal out a little bit, you can kind of weaken Brisbane's midfield. So I'm interested to see. And then who takes Buddy Franklin? Does Harris Andrews? Because if
Mm.
Harris Andrews takes him, that takes away your intercept marker because they have to be touch tight on Buddy because Buddy is such a dangerous. And you've still got Isaac Heaney, potentially Papley coming in. Benny Ronk's playing better. And so there's a lot of matchup problems I potentially see. And again, I think I'm going to tip Sydney in this. I just think there's a wins for Sydney. They can win this.
Okay.
And being at the SCG, if this was at the GABA, I'd lean a lot more towards the Lions.
Another
I think
one
the
of
Lions
those
play the
where this, yeah.
yeah. I think there is a home field advantage in this situation because Sydney does play the SCG very, very well, and it is a different ground than the GABA. Tip Sydney on this one. I'm gonna buck my trend. Normally I tend to tip a team like a Brisbane over Sydney because just kind of the trends as I see. I think Sydney's playing really, really well. So I'm going to tip Sydney on this one. But this one
Yeah.
scares me as a Sydney supporter
Oh,
because
I,
this is a
if
very
I was a
good this
Saints
is a
supporter,
very
I'd be
good Brisbane
horrified.
team.
Yeah.
This potentially could be the other team with Fremantle in the talks around Melbourne as those flag contenders potentially. I mean, depending on what pundit you talk, there's some pundits that Melbourne's got this in the bag because the Western Bulldogs are not playing,
I'm not
and
buying it.
Sydney's vulnerable,
I'm not buying
Fremantle's
it.
vulnerable. But I agree with what some is that Melbourne hasn't played the cream of the crop yet. So they haven't really been tested as much this year as they did last year. Teams have kind of figured it out. They're going to have a year to look
Hmm.
at it up. Sydney's a young team. They're a year older, and they played Melbourne last year in a championship within 2 goals. So they're there and a year more experience. I think Brisbane has
Yeah.
tons of talent with Eric Hipwood still coming back. If they're defensively structured play as well as they do, they can match up and shut down enough of Melbourne's abilities. I think they're in it. I don't think Melbourne's as invincible as we kind of looked at. So that's why I'm looking at this Hawthorn game going, will we see vulnerabilities? Will we see a normal Spanish Melbourne performance? Or do we see them absolutely destroy them? So This is such a fun round of footy because
There's
this
some
could really
great
tell
games, Donnie.
this could really tell us who is what because Geelong beats Fremantle, Geelong's right back in the talk of flag contender because if they beat
Fremantle
Fremantle,
beats Geelong.
that's a top two side, a Fremantle team that's playing really
Mhm.
well in the
Hawthorn can
season. So
prove they could become a pure, legitimate, more than legitimate team. They could become a Hawthorn. Donnie, the Hawthorn Hawks can become flat contenders depending on results from this game.
mhm. Oh, I completely agree. Important. Howard could stamp
That's
themselves
okay. I just had to listen.
if they
That
win this
sounds
game.
so weird coming from my mouth. Hawthorn, flat contenders should not be in the same sentence unless there is a isn't in front in the middle of there. But it's 2022. Apparently, anything happens in the AFL now, so it's impossible. It's impossible to truly know. That's what makes it fun. That's crazy. Imagine if North Melbourne beats Carlton. That's a bad look for Carlton right there. St. Kilda can keep rolling, or Port Adelaide might be able to get back in it. And I really do think, like your point there, the winner of Sydney Brisbane puts himself at the second best contender for the flag, to Melbourne, assuming Melbourne handled business against the Hawks.
Well, the other thing you think about it too is that there's one opponent that they've both played, and that's the Geelong Cats. Sydney beat the Cats again at the SCG, and
Mm-hmm.
Brisbane lost to the Cats at GMHBA. So it's very fascinating. Again, if you kind of look at matchups, Sydney beat a team that they're playing against. So it's very fascinating. Again, so I'm each and every game has a storyline that if it happens a certain
Yes.
way could change how we look at this, change how we look at the season. I'm right, and Hawthorn knocks off Melbourne, all hell breaks loose because then I think it goes from
That's why
well,
I need to be
I'm
right, Donnie. I need to be
I'm
right.
I'm being serious because even though they are missing Keziah Pickett and Luke Jackson, is that vulnerability shows, and every team is going to dissect it and try to do what Hawthorne does. I mean, Sam Mitchell, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he learned from one of the best in Clarko. So if he does it, every team's going to dissect that tape to within an inch of its life to see how they do it. Now, if Melbourne just has a bad game and can't kick straight worth a darn, can't hit to the broadside of the barn, kicks only 5 goals, we'll know that basically if you put enough pressure on Melbourne and make them force kick, make him have a horrible kicking day, you can beat them. Again,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know. But then you look at it as who
I'll
wins
find
the
out soon.
who wins the Geelong Fremantle game and who wins the Sydney Brisbane game, because it could not only change the ladder, but it could change the discussion on who's that second best team on the ladder. If Geelong smashes Fremantle, Geelong's got a plausible excuse to say that they're right there. And then depending on Sydney Brisbane, I mean, Sydney beats Brisbane by 2 goals,
Mm-hmm.
and Geelong beats Fremantle. Many people say that puts Sydney in the catbird seat as the number 2
Mm-hmm.
team in the
Or
entire
hell,
competition.
Donnie, we
And then
might get a new flag favorite by the end of this round. That's
we could
crazy.
have 3 or 4 teams fighting for the flag if certain things happen. But
Right.
and then again, it's how do the Western Bulldogs not Richmond get their form back? Because this is a
Mm-hmm.
perfect opportunity. You play a West Coast team, you got a chance to get a win. You get a win here, you could really bounce your season back into the way you want it. Same thing with Western Bulldogs. You've got a chance to bounce your season back with a good win going into your next round. So each and every round could potentially be your spark for the rest of the season. I mean, as a Sydney supporter, I remember 2017. They were 0-6 after the first 6 rounds. They reel off row to go from 0-6 to 10-6 and in the
It's
finals.
possible.
So it
It's
just shows
possible.
you one game, if done right, one game can spark you to 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, and the whole ladder could change. So this is another round where the matchups are scintillating. I cannot wait for this because every single day there is a game that I'm going, oh, I can't wait for, because Friday night, Geelong Cats, Fremantle Dockers. Saturday night here, you've got a couple. Collingwood Gold Coast will be fascinating. You've also got Saturday early here is the Melbourne Hawthorn
Mm-hmm.
game. And then Sunday, 2 of them, the Western Bulldogs Essendon, which I think could be fascinating for the Western Bulldog season. If they drop one to Essendon, oh my gosh, it's going to be fascinating watching the Melbourne media. means if that happens. And the Sydney Swans, Brisbane Lions, the communication on that one is going to be fascinating because if it's a close game, again, how is it by
the footy media, who's the better team?
It'll be fascinating to watch that. So I'm each and every game this round could be absolutely storyline-ish with how certain results could affect the season.
No, I'm super excited, and I came up on the fly with this line pertaining to the NFL draft when we were recording this week's NFL breakdown. And all I gotta say, Donnie, hell, I might even put this on a T-shirt because this is my mindset for everything not related to my favorite teams. And fingers crossed for chaos because that will make this so much more fun. I just hope that you know what hits the fan and the whole. I hope Twitter crashes. I hope Twitter crashes just from the AFL community blowing up over some of the results this round. But would love to see your thoughts and especially can I get one person on my side when it comes to tipping Hawthorn this round, please? It's okay. It's a welcome 4% that you got here. Come join the 4%, guys. We'll love to have you here. But that's just about gonna do it for us on live and on this recording here. And I do truly appreciate everyone that tuned in, whether you caught us on the live streams on YouTube and Twitch, whether you caught us on YouTube, whether you caught us on Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, streamed the audio from our website at thefourthandlong.com. Everything is amazing, and you fans truly are the best in the world. And if you're looking at just audio, Australia, stand up because you're just 1 percentage point away from being from making a quarter of our viewers. Almost 25% of you from Australia, this audio. And then on YouTube, if you want to take a look, it's almost half. So you guys are fantastic. Maybe that should teach me to refrain from insulting snags, but I'm stupid, so I probably will not. As long as I don't insult Irwin or Crocodile Dundee, then maybe, just maybe, I'll make it out of here alive. But thank you, like I said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Catch us on Twitter, Instagram. Catch Coach Johnny on Twitter, Instagram as well, at CoachHess40. And, Coach, your thoughts on the Hawthorn Hawks' chances of beating Melbourne in one word or phrase?
Mind blown.
Legitimately, like the mind blown emoji on our phones. Legit, if that happens, I will legit shout you out on Twitter if that happens. Legit,
you will have called
nobody, and I mean nobody except for 3% of the tipping competition, and most likely that 3% is Hawthorn fans. Legitimately,
bring it on, baby. Let's go, Hawthorn.
Hawthorn fans are going, you know what? Darn it, I'm tipping
the Hawks. No, I'm gonna love this round.
Let's go.
I'm gonna absolutely love this round. But if that happens,
dude, legit, I will come on with a round of applause. Next podcast, I will start with a round of applause for you if that happens. You have it.
But if they win that game, I'll start off the podcast with a round of applause for you, sir.
Hawthorn, don't let me down, please. But ladies and gentlemen, go root for the Hawks this round, and we will see you after round 7, or not even after that. Hopefully we'll see you on Friday/Saturday, depending on what continent you're living on. See you next time.